Well, good morning, Ernie. This is Ernest Rossi, my favorite person in the entire world, and I'm Kathryn Rossi behind the camera. And we've been exploring comfort. And so we thought how wonderful it would be for Ernie to share his favorite word, his favorite experience, and how he's developed it over the decades. And so, Ernie, what is comfort to you, and why is it so important right now?
Well, comfort is something that happens to all of us every hour and a half or two. There's a biological basis for this, and that is what I call the four-stage creative process. So it's tied in with many biological and psychological variables.
Yes, it is, but what does it mean to you right now?
Oh, right now I'd like to manifest a 20-minute break. And I can do it very easily. I could close my eyes and just tune into where's the comfort in my body right now.
And where is the comfort in your body right now, Ernie?
As I tune into it, it's in the viscera, the enteric brain, so to speak. It feels very soft, very comfortable, and very okay.
How beautiful. Do you think you can let that expand?
Let that expand in meaning. Well, I could say that this is a 20-minute break that is biologically built into us because every hour and a half we need about 20 minutes to have time out. We need to take a breath, to have a glass of water or whatever. As you notice, as I speak about this, I start experiencing the 20-minute break.
Yes, and isn't it interesting, Ernie, that you wrote this book quite a while ago? It's the only book you've written for the popular audience, and it has to do with following nature. What does nature have to say? And what nature has to say is there's a time to be active, and then there's a time when your body needs to restore itself. But even if you don't have 20 minutes, sometimes you have 2 minutes.
Well, I can demonstrate a 2-minute break.
Okay, I think that's what people really need, to be able to practice and get really good at comfort.
Okay, suppose I give you a 2-minute demonstration. I've been working with you, Kathryn, for an hour and a half at least to prepare for this. So right now I can feel the need to take a break. So if I just close my eyes like this, I tune into where is the comfort in my body. And I sense this viscera, the enteric brain, so to speak. And it feels very good to let myself go with that soft, lay back, relaxed feeling. It's happening to me right now. You notice I've closed my eyes because, well, that's consistent with taking a break. What else can I tell you about it?
When was the earliest time you remembered when you learned how to self-soothe, how to be comfortable?
Well, this began when many 50, 60 years ago when I was a Freudian analyst. I noticed people coming in and they're all harried up. They're rushing to get to the appointment with me. And I noticed if I just sympathetically look at them, it took them a couple minutes to adjust to the psychoanalytic situation. And what poured out was the feeling component was the low end of what I eventually called a 20-minute break. And they would stay in that state. Today I might call it self-hypnosis without making a big deal about it. As you see, I'm closing my eyes because I'm going into that state. But I can listen to you, I can respond to you appropriately, and more importantly, I get to the point of all of this exercise more quickly. Because when you're taking a break, you don't bother with the particulars. You just want to satisfy your audience and enjoy taking a break that happens naturally every hour and a half or two. You might well ask, well, where did I learn about this? Well, I learned it intuitively watching my clients, but then I went into the history. And there's a history of at least 200 years where sensitive, therapeutic personalities recognized that there was an optimal time. And that optimal time came every hour and a half or two. And records going back 200 years report this hour and a half. And some called it a 2-hour cycle, and some called it an hour and a half cycle. But this was available to acute observers at least 200 years ago.
But it's also what you observed when you worked for those 8 years with Milton Erickson.
Oh, yes. He was a master therapeutic personality, but he did not know about a 20-minute break.
He didn't know about it, but he lived it.
That's right. He lived it. It was interesting the way he began his sessions with me when I was in training with him. He would sit down, fiddle a bit, getting used to sitting in his chair. He'd move a little trinket or two on his desk. And after a few minutes, he would look up to me and he would say, "Yes, now, Ernest, I read the material you wrote down about our last session, and in general, I would agree with all of that. I never knew it was a 20-minute break exactly. But that's, as I go through my memory, that's about how long it would take." And in my book, The 20-Minute Break, there's a very, very important page. And the page is on page 58. And if you go directly to 58, you'll see 2 columns on one page. On the left, you'll see the ultradian stress response when you did not pay attention to your need for rest. And on the other column, the ultradian healing response. And this naturally fell into 4 units. So that gave me the idea, oh, this could be related to the 4-stage creative process. And that's how I brought together psychopathology, when every hour and a half you can go into a stress syndrome. And the stress syndrome is when you need to take a break, but you don't. You ignore those signals that take a break. Or you had a choice of going into the ultradian healing response. And I've got that on page 58 of my book, The 20-Minute Break, to show very clearly that this process takes place in 4 stages. And then I had the wit to recognize, is this the same as the 4-stage creative process? And all of my history since then has been how the 4-stage creative process, which is the first paper I wrote for the Journal of Humanistic Psychology about 50 years ago.
I think it was longer ago than that. I think your first paper was Psychological Shocks.
Yes.
But one of your in the beginning of having written, oh gosh, I don't know how many papers, hundreds.
200 and
it's at least 250.
Counting.
Right. But the most important word that you said as you were describing this is choice.
Yes.
You have a choice if you go into comfort or if you stay in stress. And so, in this moment in time, there's a lot of people that are really stressed.
Yes.
And they're not practiced in going into comfort.
That's right.
And so we thought, why not encourage comfort? Now, the way that you do it, right now your eyes are open, they're looking at me, those beautiful green eyes. But when you go into comfort, naturally your eyes close.
That's right.
You're not looking at screens. You're not listening to anything on the outside. You're tuning in to the inside of you.
Yes.
And you start first by scanning your body and asking yourself, where do I feel comfort?
That's right.
Now, sometimes when I ask people this question in therapy, and they come because they're very uncomfortable about something, and often they'll report to me, I don't feel it anywhere. And then I'll say, what about your little toenail? Can you feel it in your little toenail? It's a very unusual question because you never think about your little toenail. And then it's like, no, I don't feel it there. Okay. How about in that first digit?
Yes.
And so making a body exploration, because I've never met anyone that couldn't eventually find something, even if it was a hair follicle that felt good. And when you do that, when you can find a little something, what happens is exactly what's going on your face right now. There's a smile comes. Now your smile is big, but often we just see a tiny smile. And then you simply wonder if it can grow. You don't force it, you don't make it grow.
It happens all by itself.
It happens all by itself, and you just wonder. And then the next thing happens that you're doing, and that is the access to the deeper breath.
Yes.
What happens during stress is people's breathing patterns change.
Right.
And they get shallow or they stop.
Yeah.
People hold their breaths. or it's so shallow, it's a subclinical hyperventilation.
Yeah.
And do you realize the 100% chance you have of experiencing anxiety comes from how you're breathing?
Yeah. That's the first line of evidence that you are accessing the ultradian healing response.
Yes, and so there you are with your deeper breath, and you can feel it right now. I can feel it right now. And it just feels good. And so when you tune into yourself right now, Ernie, are you in the past? Are you in the present? Or are you in the future?
I'm in the present.
Exactly. And you know what? For almost all of us, the present is a beautiful place to be.
Yes.
Because this is the other thing that's going on in the world. All of these projections of how it's going to be, how it's going to be better, how it's going to be worse. But this is where the worry comes from.
Yes.
So by going into comfort, there's an excellent chance you're going to be going into the present moment.
Yes. And there's an excellent chance that you're naturally going to fall into the ultradian healing response.
Yes.
Because it happens naturally every hour and a half or two.
Yes. Well, you know, Ernie, I think this has been a wonderful conversation. And I think we're going to continue this conversation and wait till next time to go deeper. What do you think?
I think it's a pretty good idea.
Okay, well, from Ernest and Kathryn Rossi, we love you all. We treasure you. We wish you peace. We wish you joy. We wish you good health. And today, we really wish you comfort.
Yes.
All right.
A disciplined approach to comfort.
Yes.